Hi, I am JD and this is Upfront and Personal. There are many conversations about the necessary transition towards sustainable energy. But it's not realistic to expect that we can simply flip that switch. And even if we move towards sustainable energy, we must still focus on improving efficiency. I invited my fellow countryman Edwin Diender to discuss energy efficiency and how digital transformation can make that happen. Upfront and personal. Edwin, thank you for joining me. I have a very important question for you. As you maybe know, I've worked in the SCADA business for several years, and the one thing that always puzzled me and upset me a lot is the inefficiency we have when we are transporting energy. But even when we are generating energy, there are a lot of losses involved. What can we do in that field, and how can our digital and our technical skills help with that?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a true pleasure to be back on your channel. And you raise a valid point. By all means, there is a couple of things to say on this. For example, the first one that we could say is this is a very physical industry, so to speak. And because everything is very physical, it means that the moment there is a notification or there is an awareness that certain things maybe don't perform as well as they did when we started them or when we had them implemented on day one. For example, the function of a valve or a tap or a closure part that eventually over the years is subject to wear and tear and then starts leaking, for example. Because it's a very physical industry, it will take physical measurements and physical principles to, number one, be notified and alarmed. Number two, to put it into a system of teams and of engineers who then physically need to start doing something and to solve, for example, leakage. So the first one that digital can do is digital can detect, of course, faster, more accurate, earlier, because digital is also capable of looking back in time and then create an algorithm that says, you know, somewhere along the pipeline, we've had this similar issue a couple of years before, and then it started like this, and it looks like this is going to start in almost the same way. So that's the first part that digital is very capable of doing. The second thing that I think digital is also very capable of doing is to transform the principle of reactive to be more proactive and be more predictive. And that sits with the capabilities of analytics. Usually big data analytics is being used in two ways. Number one, it gets massive amount of data in, and it stores and archives that, and it structures that data. And the second thing that big data, of course, can do is to analyze that and to extract information out of it. But the third one that big data analytics is far more capable of, where I think we'll cover the point that again, you just raised very well, is that transforming that information into insights, because only with insights, we're able to be more efficient in daily operations, which is important because number one, we are dealing with the trouble you just raised, but number two, it also helps you to be more profitable. And of course, a very economic principle is that if you want to invest a certain percentage in innovation, in renewable, or in optimizing, then the higher that number could be, you know, the better and stronger your investment for that process or for that initiative would look like. So that's where, and that is how the principle of digital alongside everything and anything physical taps into, for example, a digital twin, and that is where a digital twin, for example, comes in. Just a few examples.
Those are great examples, Edwin, because the one thing that we have to keep in mind when we look at these projects and types of infrastructure, I always use this as an example. I worked on pipelines which are older than I am, and I don't want to go into how old I am, but they are older than I am. They're still in operation. There are maintenance projects in place, of course, but these types of infrastructures are built for decades, not for years. So we shouldn't compare it to a mobile phone, which we replace every 2 years and don't care about the e-waste we are creating. These are long-term investments. Now, digital and digital twins, one thing you mentioned, can provide us a lot of information about what is happening and what is going on. Would there be, for example, artificial intelligence model which we feed with enough information that helps us to identify those losses and inefficiencies and work out solutions, how we can improve that?
In my strong belief and in my vision, yes, by all means, because the digital twin, the conceptual part of a digital twin, or an intelligent twin, as we always call it, is of course depending on a few capabilities. And one of the core capabilities sits with the component of AI. AI in different ways. AI, for example, an intelligent engine that can learn from the systems and services around it, and that can apply advice back to systems engineers and system management teams, for example. There is also a level of automation that will take away the time wasters that today need to be put in place or have to be followed up on because of physical procedures and physical ways forward. From a digital point of view, if you can automate different services and different systems settings, then that would save a lot of time for engineers to be more involved with items that require their higher level of thinking and brain power than where they today maybe are busy with. Another part that AI is very capable of doing is also to give advice and to learn from systems and services within, and to provide advice if there is an investment needed into a certain direction, what we'd like to see, or we'd like to measure, or we'd like to calculate in 3D modeling or in simulations. What, for example, would happen if we would roll forward or move forward or optimize into a certain direction in comparison to 3, 4, 5, or 6, or 7, or a wide array of alternatives. The third one that AI is also very capable of doing is it can provide, perhaps in future modeling, perhaps an idea, a creation of an idea within this concept of a digital and intelligent twin of maybe the gas field or the oil field of the future. Because we continue to explore, we continue to try and find not only renewable and new energy sources, but we also try to continuously see if there are still other ways of creating a new oil or a new gas field, which today is an almost exact equivalent and copy of the existing physical oil and gas fields as we have it. But the next one round might be implemented slightly different. And for that, we also need additional intelligence. And the AI component, as I said before, is an instrumental part in everything around that and for that.
I love the term intelligent twins. That adds a lot of value to just the digital twins. One of the things I'm always concerned about is that we create so much digital twins and so much data infrastructure that we end up with not knowing what to do with all the information. And an intelligent twin will be much more active in that. There's one thing, and I'm aware that this is not a popular opinion. And that's the reason why I wanted to discuss that with you, because upfront and personal also means a little bit being on the hot seat, right?
I am on the hot seat, as we said.
Definitely. There is a lot of push to steer away entirely from oil and a bit less from gas. But if we look at all the aspects of life where we are using oil for generating plastics, etc., I personally believe that it's not realistic to assume that we can or should move away entirely from the oil and gas industry. But we can say we are replacing a couple of, let's say, fuel for cars with renewable solar energy when we start using electrical vehicles. But we still need oil for all the others. So when we stick with oil in a more durable way, not just sustainable, but also a durable way, in your opinion, is it still important and efficient to keep investing in improving the way we operate, improving the way we transport, improving the way we gain oil out of the resources?
Well, I would say yes. Again, for two reasons, as the ones that I also mentioned before, and the ones that you mentioned as well. Yes, because there's a very popular phrase going out there, or statement going out there, that refers to the opposite side of the universe, which is the metaverse, which is a combination of all verses together. If you think about this from an energy point of view, you could say maybe there is an energy verse that either can be created or that already is there that supports this metaverse. The metaverse is a blend of different verses, as I said, and maybe from an energy point of view, you could think of the same. There are so many different sources of energy. If we are able to combine them, and if we're able to aggregate them, and if we're able to do that in such a way that, number one, it becomes not only sustainable, as you said, but also durable, but also as neutral within their carbon footprint as possible, or maybe even zero in their carbon footprint, or negative in their carbon footprint, then I think we are on to something. The second one sits what I mentioned before when it comes to the digitization or having an intelligent twin of physical operations, and to use that to see where and how can we further optimize in this process going forward. In the world of oil and gas, even though it's a very physical industry or domain within the energy industry, I think the world of digital can help be more efficient, optimize different services, and use the world of digital to see how and where and in what way can oil and gas be used in such a way that it is as close to carbon neutral as possible, which today maybe is not even in the thinking of most, because the processes and the procedures and all the rigs and all the infrastructures and the pieces of equipment that are in place for that are from the past. We have it in this way because it comes from a certain starting point. If we're able to understand and move the pole a little bit, so to speak, or our point of view or our understanding of it, then definitely yes, we are onto something, as I said.
Edwin, thank you. I think this is a good conclusion for today's hot seat on Upfront and Personal. I want to thank you for your insight and open answers. It is always a pleasure to have these conversations with you, and I hope that everyone appreciates your input, and that this leads to a more realistic discussion, and also a public discussion, about where we should go with energy transportation, with energy generation, and that includes oil and gas. Thank you, Edwin.
The stage has been set.
Thank you.
All preparations are made. The challenge is accepted. Critical questions, real answers, cybersecurity, geopolitics, economy, sustainability. Question everything. Challenge the status quo and dare to see beyond the headlines. This is Upfront and Personal, with tough questions and real answers.
Dr. Ingenieur Johannes Drooghaag.